down to episode number, checks notes, 61 of the Down South Photo Show. with me, Brendan Waits, here in Ocean Grove, Victoria, Australia. And the man is back after a week off, a week of high adventure and hijinks, which we will be talking about tonight on the Down South Photo Show. Give it up for Cam Blake in Hobart, Tasmania. Good evening. Hello, Cameron.
Good evening, Brendan. Brandan, how you going? It's good to be back.
It is. It's good to have you back. Ash Hughes did an amazing job filling in at incredibly short notice. And when I say incredibly short, it was like literally that afternoon.
Yes.
I said, how would you like to? And he stood in, he says, as he
tell you what, he doesn't mind getting on the show, does he, Ash?
No, it's good. And he
it's good.
He always says that he thinks he rambles and he's no good at it. He's actually quite good at it. For a dude that doesn't do this sort of stuff, and that's his second attempt at it.
And we don't ramble. Come on, Ash.
Well, we can talk under wet cement with a mouthful of peanuts. And do you know, in my grade 2 report card, it actually said that.
That you could talk under concrete with a mouthful of peanuts.
Absolutely.
My grade 2
cement with a mouthful of peanuts.
My grade 2 and grade 3, 4, 5, and pretty much the whole thing through school. Cam could be anything if you just concentrated and stopped talking.
Man, we are kindred spirits, you and I. I
think so. Except you went to school when they used ink things, didn't it? Ink tanks.
Yeah, ink wells.
Ink
that's
wells.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
I wasn't at school then.
No, that's right. So thanks again to Ash for joining the show. Thanks to everyone who liked, shared, followed the episode as usual, and for subscribing to our YouTube channel and to the podcast. We appreciate it greatly. Thank you very much.
I was thinking, I did listen to the episode. I listened to it on the way back from my adventure. And after Ash said that he did 62 weddings in a year, I'm like,
crazy.
That dude could sponsor the show. He must be loaded with cash. Surely he can just be giving us $1,000 a week for sponsorship.
I know, and I let him on here for free. What was I thinking?
Anyway, he's rolling in the dough.
Ash Hughes, brought to you by Ash Hughes Photography.
Like if you average out what a wedding photographer is charging, he's probably out charging $3,000 to $5,000 a wedding.
Oh, and the rest. Exactly.
And there's not much overheads when you're doing wedding photography.
Man of his caliber, absolutely. Brilliant,
amazing.
We'll kick things off. It's going to be a fairly cam-centric episode, as it was last year after you came back from your big adventure. But that's a good thing. Okay. So I'm going to start with your background, Cameron. Where are you coming to us from tonight?
Let me use my little thing. I am coming to you from the side of the Stormbreaker sail ship. Try to say that in a mouthful of marbles. This is coming back up the Gordon River after our little adventure down to Franklin. It was a beautiful morning. We got a little bit of light licking the top of those trees there, and hanging off the side of the boat, decided to take a bit of a snap. But it was a bit cold, but it was a stunning morning. So we always get these amazing reflections on the way back. It's really contrasting because we go down this river where it's absolute violence for 8 days. And then you get out on this river and it's nothing but peaceful sailing for about 6 or 7 hours back to Strahan. So that's where I was cruising along.
I think people who are listening to this in their cars or on their headphones while working out, they need to at some point jump on the YouTubes and have a look at that photo, because it's an absolute cracker. How's the reflection? Shut the front door.
The reflections are off the charts on the Gordon River. And it's like that all the time. It doesn't seem to get ripples, apart from when boats go down there. And we had a little bit of morning fog. And like I said, the sun just started playing beautifully.
The light on the trees in the distance there.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's really cool, the little bow wave of the boat. How's the alignment? Like it's lining up with the reflection of the mountains.
Yes.
You've outdone yourself there, Cam.
That was all done on purpose.
Naturally.
No, so yeah, beautiful.
We're professionals.
We're professionals. And you've got some cool trees in yours. I love those trees. Do you know, are they got a special name apart from cool trees?
Oh God, now you put me on a spot. Hang on, let me cover my thing.
Cool. They're a pine of some sort.
Yeah, they're not your classic pine that you find. So normally along the coast here, we have, as people probably are aware, we have the Norfolk Island pines, which are the big, tall ones that were planted literally centuries ago. Well, almost 2 centuries ago now, so that they could use the pine trees for masts for their sailing ships.
That's right.
But that was a very common thing that happened, particularly along the west coast, the Shipwreck Coast and Great Ocean Road, all the way down all the way to Port Fairy, where there's heaps of Norfolk Island pines there. Yeah. These little pines, someone will tell us. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but anyway,
I'm trying to Google them, but they're cool.
Yeah, they are cool. They're gnarly. They generally lean towards lean with the prevailing wind, which is really cool. So you get all these cool little patterns and textures and effects and stuff in them. So that photo was done on a workshop a seascapes workshop that I did out of Torquay. So this is Torquay. This is Point Danger. Anyone who knows Torquay? In fact, if I point there-ish, that's about where Ocean Grove is, way off in the distance. So this is down in sunny Torquay, and literally just getting out of the car. This is the car park at Point Danger, but I just really love that tree.
The clouds, and that tree really stands out against that background, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, something that made it. I don't know. It worked. I mean, we talk a lot about composition on this show, and proof in the pudding for both our photos that how important composition is. Yeah.
Are they conifer trees? No,
I don't think so. You'll say it, and I'll go, of course they are. But anyway, I can't remember right now. It's some kind of pine.
Someone will tell us. What are those crazy looking pines? Because
hit us up in the comments below.
Yeah, we have some of those down out on the way to the west coast on the Tarkine. You go past these huge ones of those. Again, they're sort of planted for. I think they're more windbreaks than anything else, but
they're not native. They're not native,
but they are incredibly looking cool trees. So
they do look good. They come up quite well in the old photograph.
Yes.
So now, Cam, you've had a few days since you got off your big adventure. You kind of tried to relax. You went and got yourself a little bit ill, I hear, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, if by relax you mean exiting from both exits. I was. It was a doomed decision. So we got back to Strahan and we unloaded the boat that we're on here, and then it's another sort of 5-6 hours back to Hobart. It's, one big slow bus with the trailer and all the gear, and so you expect to be on the bus for a while and chilling out. And the wonderful folk at the Franklin River Rafting at Strahan said, "Look, we're going to get lunch on the way, but we're going to put an order in." A phone order. I'm like, yeah, cool. That sounds like a good idea. So everyone got their order going. So the typical Tasmania, like, here's the menu, order what you want. So all 15 went, I'll have one of those, this. We all go to the toilet and get a drink, and then we come back and they're like, right, they got none of that on the menu, but what they do have is a chicken sandwich with spinach or something like that. And everyone's like, okay, I guess I'll have that. And this cafe is it couldn't be any further in the middle of absolutely nowhere. I've driven past this place. It looks like a haunted house. And I'm like, okay, we're going there. Okay, cool. And yeah, I had this sandwich, but I'm pretty sure this chicken sandwich just didn't agree with me. And then I was violently ill for the next 24 hours. I have not been that sick. I actually don't think, I'm 43, almost 44. I don't think I've actually had food poisoning before. I think I've had it when I got back.
Yes, it sounds very much like you had food poisoning. I mean,
yeah,
I commented immediately when I saw you tonight that you have trimmed down.
Yeah, so there's
a pro tip, guys. If you want to lose some weight, dysentery, no problem.
I won't name the cafe, but if
you'll get sued.
If you're going between, let's say, Derwent Bridge and Queenstown, and you come across a cafe that looks like a haunted house, maybe go for the cakes. They had some really nice cakes. So
okay, so that's where everyone's now going to drive past and go, that's where Cam got nailed.
Lost his shit, literally.
That's right, exactly. Yeah.
So I've been a bit unwell, but I'm feeling a bit better. It's taken me a few days to get over it, but
excellent.
Yeah. So
good. I'm glad you're back on deck and able to record the show tonight for our good listeners out there.
Yeah.
My week's been busy.
You're always busy. You're non-stop busy.
No, I am, but it's when things go to the next level because I don't know, something happens on the 25th of December, but apparently everyone's got to be prepared for that. So just flat out, we received a massive shipment of profile frames today.
Oh, nice.
I think on the invoice it said 247 kilograms of frames. I don't know why they do it in kilograms, but that's what it was.
Right.
So a quarter of a ton of frames arrived on my doorstep today, and I had to unpack all those and get them all on the shelf and ready to go. Wow. Literally had people buying them out of the box.
That's great.
You got your frames back in. Great, I'll have them. Yeah, so which is fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah, so busy times at the shops, plural. The Torquay shop, of course, is cranking along now, so
nice.
that'll
and as
that'll
always,
keep us going.
As always, I'm concerned about your staff. How are they going?
None of them listen. You don't have to do that.
Aren't they? Okay. No, I always worry about it because, like, I've been in that retail spot.
Oh
so,
yeah. No, they're yeah. This year I've got one of my oldest staff working with me still, and my newest who has not done a Christmas yet.
Right.
So she's in for a little treat.
She's going to age.
I've. It's funny, like you can tell them as much as you like, but until you've actually experienced that kind of busyness, where we literally do 5 days trade a day for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So it gets silly, and the long hours. But look, it happens for 4 or 5 weeks of the year. It's fine. I'm conditioned to it. We'll be totally fine, and we'll get there, and we'll produce some fantastic products for people.
Of course,
make some nice frame photos, and getting a lot of landscape stuff in. A lot of people's own landscape stuff that they want on their walls. Maybe they've seen how we do it and get it up on our walls, and they want to get their own done.
Maybe the message is getting out there that you need to print.
Yes.
We had this conversation a lot on the river.
Too. We had this conversation a lot on this podcast.
Yeah. Maybe there's more people that listen to this than we realize.
Well, there is subscriber count is slowly creeping towards 400 on the tubes, which is pretty cool.
It's not. I haven't looked.
Well, okay, when I say 400, I mean 350, but that's fine. Well, it's more than that. Anyway, whatever. We had a listener come in during the week, and I've completely forgotten her name. I'm sorry, but she'll know who it is. She got a photo of the lunar eclipse from last week. Right. Came up beautifully. She was absolutely wrapped.
Is it in focus?
Pin.
Okay. Is
pin
it
sharp.
Interesting with some sort of foregroundy or?
Do you know what made it really interesting is that beautifully, I would say, spot metered off the face of the moon. So everything, you could see the man in the moon and the detail and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But also her exposure was just right. So she had these trees that were silhouetted across the bottom.
Perfect.
And the trees were just barely silhouetted. So it wasn't a cliched silhouette. It was it was really subtly done.
Nice.
And when I showed her the photo, I said, now these are going to be really dark. She said, perfect. That's how I want it. And I went, excellent.
There you go. See, it's not hard to take a decent photo of the blood moon.
Yeah, I'm so sorry for forgetting your name again. But anyway, it'll come back to me when we're off air, and then I'll put in the comments or something. But anyway, sorry about it.
Yeah, I'll apologise on Brendan's behalf because he's terrible.
I'm the worst with names. And I always put it down to,
age.
Dementia. But I'm at the shop, and I always say, well, there's 1,000 of you, but only one of me.
Yeah, that's right. So, that's right.
And they're all and it's particularly hard when I'm at the supermarket, and I see a customer and that oh, hi Brendan, and it's like,
oh, that was like BFOP the other week up in Brighton.
Well, you'd be the same.
Oh, we walked this.
You're famous.
Well, yeah, I'm famous in my own lunchroom. We walk in the BFOP and there's 500 people at a festival. Like, hey Cam, and I'm like,
hey you,
how you going?
Hey,
we've spoken to. I've made a few comments on your photos. Don't you remember me? I'm like, I'd love to remember you, but I really don't.
That's right.
Yeah, it does. It gets hard, and even with workshops, like sometimes I get to day 4 and I'm like, Brendan, can you do that for me? And it's just like, God. So
yeah, I know.
Anyway,
but that's how it is. That's what happens with age. So our main topic for discussion tonight is your amazing trip down the mighty Franklin River.
Yes.
In Las Vegas. Yes. How did it stack up against other Franklin River trips?
Pretty bloody amazing, to be honest.
How many have you done, for context? How many have you done?
This is 3 or 4? I think this is my 7th trip down there.
7? Holy smokes.
Yeah. But this, and we'll put a bit of a note out there. This is going to be maybe a part 1 of the Franklin River trip, because next week we're going to have a very special guest on the trip.
We are
on the show from the trip. We're going to have Tom Putt visiting us. He couldn't make it this week because apparently he's living in his car tonight and can't get online. I don't know why.
I didn't buy that for a second, that excuse, by the way.
Well, he said it to me a couple of times. I'm like, why are you in your car? Apparently they're doing a big install of one of his art pieces. I think his wife might have kicked him out. I think she might have finally cracked the shits and said, "You're out for a week." So yeah, he's going to join us. He's going to join us next week, and we'll have a bit of a chat about his perspective on what happened. But it was a great trip. We had a really, really cool crew. So we had the 2 boats of us, so the 8 of us, and then we also had 3 other punters join us who had missed out on a tour last year, so they just tapped on our tour. And you couldn't have asked for a greater group of people to gel. Like, everyone just got on really well. There was no nothing. Like, everyone just got on well and did the job that we had to do. In regards to epicness, we started off in really nice sunshine. We had a few nice days of warm sunshine, and then Mother Nature went, "Oh, sorry, I forgot it's winter." So it brought back rain. It got really cold. We had a bit of hail. We had a bit of wind. The river rose close to 2 meters while we're on there. So that made things quite interesting.
I want to pause for a second here. So for the listeners at home, how do you cope in those conditions? Now, clearly you're wearing wetsuits, is that right?
Yeah. So in regards to you mean how do we deal with the cold? And
yeah. How do you stay warm?
Yeah. So you have almost 2 kits. So you have like a boat kit, and then you have like a camp kit. So your camp kit goes in a beautiful dry bag that goes in the boat that stays dry the whole day. But while you're rafting on this trip, for the first half, I just had a wetsuit. And then underneath, they give you like a thermal top underneath. And then you pull your wetsuit over that. Then they give you like a splash jacket and then a life jacket. So you got a few layers. And when it got a bit cold, what I did then is I put a thermal layer base on my bottoms and my top, plus their thermal, plus that, plus the other thing. So we just added a few layers. You also wear neoprene socks, so like the surf socks. You wear a pair of woolly socks under them and then pull them over the top just for another layer as well. So even though it was like, I didn't find it cold, and I'm probably more acclimatized down here. There was a few days where some of the ladies were getting a bit cold, and Tom was starting to shiver a bit. But that was more so when we just stopped for lunch or stopped to move the boats around a rapid.
Yeah. So like when you're actually, because I'm also assuming that you've got an oar and you are paddling down this river.
Well, you've actually got a paddle, apparently, because an oar is actually connected to the boat. A paddle is individual.
There you go.
So yeah, that's what I got told about 6 times when I said it wrong. So yeah, you got a paddle. So you're always on the move, and you're always pumping blood through you. And if you're not in the boat, like I said, sometimes they line the boats through the rapids, or you're having lunch or whatever. So you're always moving around on the shore or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when you get to camp, you crack open your dry bag, you get out of your wetsuit, get out of all your wet clothes, get into dry camp clothes. The only bad thing about it, the only hard thing about it, is the next morning you've got to put on a wetsuit and different sort of. So it's usually just the wetsuit that's wet. Everything else is relatively dry, or minor bit of dampness to it. But yeah, so you manage. You just so
you put on a wetsuit, but your body temperature sort of warms it up, and then it's fine.
Yeah. And when you get your wetsuit on, generally that everything else is ready in the camp to be put back into the boat. So you're moving around, you're lifting barrels, you're moving your bags down, you're putting camera cases away. So you start moving, you warm up pretty quickly.
So how many, on average, like how many hours a day were you actually in the boat?
Good question. I think on average, I reckon, I'm going to say maybe 4 hours a day.
Yep.
In the boat. There was a couple of short days and a couple of long days, which averaged it out. And then when we got to camp, we had, the sun was going down about 8 o'clock, 8:30. So we're getting a good 4 or 5 hours every day around camp to take some photos and chill out and have a rest and eat.
And generally speaking, because obviously you're camping literally on the banks of whatever nature's giving you, you're there.
Yeah.
How far from camp could you stray, like to chase photos? Because obviously this is a photography show, so people will be interested to know about the photographic opportunities on a trip like this.
Absolutely.
So, how could you go as far as you want, or was there restrictions?
Yeah, you're really only restricted by the landscape, really. So there were some sections where we camped where you could have walked as far as you want up and down the creek, up and down the river on the foreshore, on the bank, sorry. And then there was other ones where you might have been restricted 50 meters either way. So yeah, some camps are bigger than others, but what I found, and this is what I love about watching these photo trips we do, is people getting to camp, and the first couple of days they're a bit like, oh, what am I meant to be shooting? Like, there's a river, what else is there? Like, what else am I meant to shoot? And a little bit of coaching, a little bit of encouragement, and you sort of get people then starting to look at those real abstract shots and those really fine details. There was these beautiful wild orchids down the river that quite rare to shoot. There was lots of waratah out down the river, beautiful patterns in the water, beautiful patterns in the rocks, Huon pines. There was all these cool little abstract things that you could easily get shots of. So a lot of people think that they're going to go do this sort of photography trip and just shoot big landscapes like the one behind us, but really it's quite a tight river, so you've got to think outside the box a bit. But once everyone gets their head around that, you can just see people getting to camp going, well, there's a cool tree, there's some really cool bark, but there's a really good view down the river as well. Oh, that's a really cool flower. So you could see them starting to make a list of things they were going to shoot each day when they got in there. So it was really good.
It'd be pretty cool because each day you are in a new section of the river.
Yeah.
Was there, and I'm assuming, I think I already know the answer to this, but would you be rafting along and just wish you could bail right there to get shots?
Yeah, that happens a lot. And that's one of the other things that people need sort of sometimes switch off a bit. A lot of guys had the TG6 Olympus stuffed in their little life jacket there. So there's a couple of little spots where it's quite calm, where we can actually get the bigger cameras out and shoot as we're on the river. But it only happens probably a couple of times on the whole trip. But yeah, you'll be paddling along and, oh my God, there's a massive waterfall. Okay, we can't get the cameras out, either the phone or the little waterproof camera. But I think that's the beauty of this trip as well. It's not only do you walk away with some really great photos, but your visual memory of the whole trip is just incredible. Like you won't have a photo of it, but you'll go, remember that huge waterfall, remember that massive forest we went through, or huge rapid that we went past. So, but yeah, there is definitely spots, and Tom and I were talking about that. Like if we had the courage and the skill, probably more the skill, you go down there on your own in a little pack raft or something like that and spend a good couple of weeks, because you could walk away with some incredible photos. But this one's a bit different, a little bit restricted based on what you're rafting and how you're rafting. But yeah, you still walk away with some beautiful shots.
And we're talking for the whole time, I'm assuming we're in a national park?
You are not only in a national park, you are in a World Heritage Area. So
yes,
you are it's called the Wild Rivers Franklin Gordon National Park, but it is also in the heart of the Tasmanian World Heritage Area. And obviously the history behind the Franklin River with the damming and the protesting that happened in the early 80s. I think, and I'm pretty sure Tom will explain this quite well in the next episode, but I think that really hit home for a lot of people on this trip. And I guess that's the other thing with what we do. You go to a place so many times, you don't lose the respect for it, but you sort of lose the impact it has on you because you've been down there a few times. But this trip, you could just tell people were like, what the hell were these people thinking? Like, why were they going to destroy this entire place just for a pissy little bit of hydropower? Yeah. So once that mindset got into people, it changed the group a bit, actually. The dynamic of the group went from, this is a really cool rafting trip, to, my God, what were they thinking? This is incredible. Why did they even think about doing that? So yeah, it's a definitely an important part, not only in Tassie, but just, well, it's a World Heritage. So this region only falls behind, there's a national park in China. I can never think of the name of it, but it ticks more boxes in the Tasmanian World Heritage Area, but in regards to World Heritage significance. But this region is second on the list. So it's got everything. It's got natural significance, cultural significance, geology. It's got everything. So it's an incredible place.
Which always leads us back to that brilliant photo by Peter Dombrovskis of, you'll tell me the place.
Rock Island Bend.
Rock Island Bend, which was made world famous during the damming of the Franklin protests that Peter shot. To show people, do you understand exactly? This is not just any old river. This is the Franklin, which has these incredible places, and as you say, of cultural, scientific heritage, which was probably a good thing they never dammed that place.
Yeah, well, even in there's indigenous caves in regions of this river. The local mob here have asked that people don't go in this cave anymore. I think it's called Kudakina Cave, but they found remains of stone tools and things like that, and they aged them back to being there 30,000 years ago.
Incredible.
So before that was actually a river. It was another thing, whatever it might have been. So you're not only that, but then you've got incredible limestone regions. You got quartz. You got all this incredible geology going through there as well. So it's an amazing place, and it's definitely not for everyone. It's not a trip that everyone can do. You definitely need to be a bit fitter and a little bit more agile on your feet. There's a little bit of getting around that's not normal, so to speak. It's not footpaths and walkways the whole way. But for those who do come down, I would bet you my last dollar that not one single person walks away without being affected with what they've been down. We had two lovely ladies, Tanina and Joe, who were my customers, who for the last year and a half have been wanting to go down this river. We had tears, we had near misses, we had laughter, we had everything on this trip with these two ladies. But they absolutely smashed it. They were very low in confidence before they started that they were going to make it. But they smashed it. They made it through. We did some things on this trip that we don't normally do in regards to walking around rapids and things like that. We did a massive, massive portage. So speaking of Rock Island Bend, we couldn't get anywhere near Rock Island Bend. The river was in that much flood. It was huge. So we had to walk up, literally abseil up this mountain over this rainforest and then down the other side and walk about 500 meters along the riverbank to our camp. It was bloody hard work. It took almost 5 hours to do this portage, carrying everything. It was incredible. Yeah. So it was a big trip. It was good.
Well done to those ladies in particular that managed to. I mean, it just does look incredible. Yeah. And maybe this photographer from Ocean Grove should get his act together and tick off another bucket list item.
Yeah, look, I reckon you would love it.
Yeah.
For the sense of adventure as well, like you just don't. It's so hard to, and this, I think this is where Tom's going to give a good insight next week, is that you don't get it until you've done it. And it's like the overland track that you're doing with me in April. Like, I can tell you how bloody awesome it is 1,000 times, but until you do it yourself,
no, of course,
and you get back from it. So, but yeah, it was an interesting trip. We had another visit from the Westpac helicopter.
Well, I was going to ask whether we bring that up tonight or whether we save that for Tom Putt next week. But that's your call.
Yeah, we can maybe tease it. Yeah, Actually, we can leave it to next week, and Tom and I can talk about that because we both experienced. But thankfully this time it was nothing to do with our group.
That thing follows you around like a giant mozzie, mate.
And you know what? I put something on Facebook the other day, and the guy operating the winch on the chopper this trip is the same guy that winched me out of my trip.
There you go.
So yeah, I don't know what's going on.
So folks, there was a winching, and we'll talk about that next week. There's a teaser for you when we've got the lovely Tom Putt on the show next week. So
it was an amazing, and they do an amazing job.
So the question, just getting back to the photography side of things, you say this is your 7th time down the river.
Yeah.
When you look back, I don't know if you've compared your photos from other trips yet or had a chance to. Do you find yourself taking similar photos, or does it improve, or what's the difference in your photography between the trips?
That's an excellent question, because
that's so far tonight that's a good question, and that's an excellent question. I'm doing something right here.
Yeah, you're asking all the right questions. It must be ash rubbing off on you.
It's definitely not on the running sheet, as you know.
No, there's nothing. The running sheet's got about 3 lines on it tonight. No, I think, and it's like I said, it is a good question, because I find myself, and I'm sure you do it as well, that, with Ocean Grove and Torquay and all the places you go, you sort of know subconsciously what you've already shot. So you go to a place and you're like, I already know I've been here. I've already shot this. So I know when I get to every campsite or every location in the river where we stop, I'm like, I know I've already shot these things, and I've already shot downriver. So I think it actually focuses you more to be different again. Yeah. I must admit, I started off this trip quite slow. I didn't take many shots at all in the first couple of days. And then towards the end, I was finding all these different things that I hadn't shot before in different conditions and things like that. So, but I have a bit of a photographic memory with my work. I can look at something and go, I know I've already taken that shot. And if I go to take it again, I'm like, no, I've already done that.
No pun intended.
No pun intended.
Or was it purely intended?
I think it's probably both. I think
you do have a photographic memory.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I came back with some different shots this trip, and it was actually really cool as well. Because we're all photographers in the game, and I respect your work, you respect mine, and I'm sure that goes with Tom and I as well. He respects my work, and I respect his. But he showed me some of the photos that he took on the trip, and I'm like, I've already got one of them. like 5 years ago, or I've already got one of those last year. So we actually saw things quite similar along the way.
Yeah, well, and that's what you would expect. And I fully expect that on the overland track that I'm doing with you, that you've done 400,000 times. It's going to be new to me, and I'm excited by that. And it'll be fascinating, really, to see what I see and how I want to photograph it versus how you do it. I would imagine, sure, we're going to be in the same environment, so we're going to end up with. I should shoot similar stuff, and you'll no doubt say, "Oh yeah, I got that shot." Blah blah blah.
Yeah,
but I think there's always a slight twist to it. Like
there is.
Tom's would have had the Tom Putt take on it.
Yeah, that's right. So,
and you can see. I bet you could see that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not to say also that, you know, I'm not saying, oh, I got the same shot as you, Tom. What are you doing? Stop copying me, or, you know, Brendan, stop. It's not a competition thing at all. It's just like, okay, that's the same shot I saw that you've taken. So I think what I guess I'm trying to say is that us landscape photographers are trained our eyes are trained in a different way. And thinking about it now, I mean, I said before that I didn't take too many shots on the first couple of days. I think that was because I was actually excited just watching everyone else shoot and what they were shooting. And Tom was great. Tom, he's a bit of an energizer bunny, and he was off every night. He went, all right, I'm going down the river. I'm going up the river. And he went to some spots that I've never been to because he was just willing to explore that further down the river. And he was happy to take a few people with him, and we had a few people with me. And so different shots, conditions are different. Like I said, when we got to Rock Island Bend, it was absolutely bucketing down that river. You could have surfed it down the river, Franklin. It was huge. And there was a little bit, you could feel there's maybe a sense of disappointment that we weren't going to get that classic shot that Peter got. But then all of a sudden that switched, and I said a couple of things to a few people. We're not going to get that classic shot, but I've been down here 7 times. The guides that night, between the 5 guides that we ended up having on the trip, because we joined groups, over 250 trips down the river between them all, not one of them had seen it like that before at Rock Island Bend. And I said to these guys, I said, this might not look great, but this is historical. Like, people haven't seen everyone thinks this section's really nice and tranquil and calm and peaceful. It's not. It's violently bad today. And I said, get the shots of that, because even though it's not the greatest light or the greatest shot, it's a moment in time that no one else has really seen before. So it was pretty cool.
Very good perspective. Absolutely. It's an also, it just sounds magnificent. Every time I talk to you about it, it sounds very, very cool. So this will lead into the next part of the show, but let's give the listeners a bit of an insight, and we'll do this with Tom next week as well. But for you, what photographic equipment did you take?
So I took, I had a dilemma all the way up. I'm like, do I take this? Do I take that? Do I take this? Do I take that?
So do you have a limit? You obviously you do. Like, you can't take 40 kilos of gear.
You can't. No. Yeah, you can take, you can't take 40 kilos of gear, but you can easily take a slab of beer, and no problem with that.
As long as you share.
So we get given. Well, I supply a 1400 Pelican case, so it's about so big.
Yep.
So, for example, Tom was able to take 2 Nikon Z series with 2 lenses on them.
Yep.
But I ended up I took my Olympus OM1, I took the 8-25, I took the 75 1.8, and I took the macro 60mm macro. So that gave me a fairly good range from wide angle to 150mm equivalent with that that 75mm. I also took my old OM3 Olympus film camera.
Fantastic.
And I took 4 rolls of film with me, and I went through 2, so I didn't shoot as much as I thought I would.
Yeah.
But that's all I took. And then I took a few cleaning cloths, took a couple of battery banks to charge things up, and circular polarizers and stuff like that.
You'll take battery banks that the battery charges on camera, right? So you're just plugging in via USB-C cable to charge.
That's right. Yeah. So, and out of the whole trip, I ended up taking about 1,500 shots along the whole trip, and I charged my camera once.
Yeah. That's good.
And it wasn't even a full charge. It was like 30%. I just topped it up.
Yeah, that's fantastic, isn't it?
Which is great. However, talking about, as we'll get to our tip of the week later on, but
yes,
we did have a few issues with the Pelican cases and a bit of condensation getting in.
Oh, really?
So because it was so cold, then all of a sudden the sun came out and it was cold, and the sun came out. As soon as we opened those cases, the air temperature between inside the case and outside the case, we had a bit of fogging of lenses happening and viewfinders fogging up. So we really just had to let them sit and settle for about 30 minutes when we got to camp, or in between when they started fogging up a bit, which I was a bit surprised about. But yeah, I must admit I was quite surprised with the OM1 and the 8-25. The 8-25 lens, I seem to have a few problems with it. Every time I put it on, it'd be fogging up at the back element. So when you know, obviously locking it on and locking air in, and so it really was a bit of patience. Like, get the camera out, sit it in the shade, let it acclimatize, and then go out and shoot. And that seemed to work okay. But but that's the gear I took.
Well, there's a pro tip in itself.
Well, it is, yeah, and you know, it's the same thing if you have a camera in the back of a car and then you get out and take shots in the snow, or vice versa. You know, if you're hot day and you put it back in an air conditioned car, you're going to create condensation. So the easiest way I found was just open the Pelican case, let it sit in the shade for 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is. And then once everything got sort of to the same air temperature, then you're good to go. Yeah, absolutely.
Nice one. Which leads us into we'll go with gear talk.
Yeah,
you've got something to show. For the listeners to hear.
Do you want to read what the title is of the gear talk? No.
I'm not going to read it out loud, but yes, I can see what it says.
Right. I've got to move back for this if I can.
Okay. So Cameron's got himself a little lens to show us all.
Yeah, I have a little lens in my possession.
Look at all right. So for those people listening, Cameron has got a big white lens on the front of his OM system camera.
I do.
It would be how long, Cam? About 40 centimeters long?
Yeah, I'd go 30, 40,
yep. And what have we here, Cameron?
So I have only one of a couple in Australia that I know of. I have the OM Digital, or the Olympus, 150 to 400 4.5 lens.
Unbelievable.
With a built-in 1.25 teleconverter, which you just switch on here.
Okay, so 150 to 400. So in Olympus speak, what you're holding there...
Notice no back button focusing. Noticing just bang.
What you're holding there is an equivalent 300 to 800 millimeter lens in full frame speak.
With a 4.5 constant aperture.
4.5 constant aperture. So that's pretty impressive. 800 millimeters at 4.5 in anyone's language is lovely.
And it's got image stabilizer. It's got auto, obviously manual focus. Like I said, it's got really cool built-in. Look at that. Look at that color coming off that coating there. Look at that.
That's just lovely.
That's it. It's got the inbuilt. It's got inbuilt teleconverter 1.25 teleconverter. So that actually gets it up to almost 1,000 mil.
Wow.
You know, the most. This is about I think it retails for around about a $12,000 lens.
Yep.
They're as rare as hen's teeth, these things. There's not many in Australia, if any. So this is an incredible lens for wildlife, anything, really. The guys at OM Digital sent it to me and said, hey, see if you can get some landscape shots with this thing. So I've got it. I don't know how long I've got it for until they ask for it back, I guess. So I'll be playing with this over the next few weeks, I reckon, and trying to get some interesting landscape shots. But it's not heavy. I know I crap on about, you know,
it looks heavy.
It looks heavy, but it's really not. Like, I would say this whole thing at the moment's weighing about 2.5, 3 kilos all up.
Yeah,
so
right.
I actually don't know what the dimensions of it are, but that was the first thing I picked it up. I went, oh, it's actually not that heavy.
No. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few little specs on this bad boy.
Yeah, do. So then I can
first of all, you're right, $11,899. So let's have a look here. Specs, that's what we want to go for.
Yeah.
Oh, under specifications, it says brand Olympus. That's nice of them. So that's about it. So never mind. We won't worry about that. Yeah, so f4.5 constant with a built-in 1.25 teleconverter. That's pretty cool. So that built-in teleconverter, that's on a lever.
Yeah, so it just switches down the teleconverter in front.
Oh, so you have more or less. No, it's either on or off.
It's either on or off. It's either standard or 1.25.
Yeah, very cool.
So
and it's obviously for the Micro Four Thirds system, so that can also be placed on a Panasonic body.
Yes, it can.
Yeah, very, very cool. And
So-
so the aperture range is f4.5 to f22. So it's a very useful little landscape setup for when you want to get those landscapes inside landscapes.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've taken it out yesterday and had a bit of a play with it, and I was shooting these. We've got a bit of snow down here at the moment because it's spring.
It's because it's nearly summer.
Because it's nearly summer. I was shooting mountains on the the other side of Lake St. Clair yesterday. It was incredible. So, and like I said, I'm just looking at the specs now. It's 1.8 kilos.
That's outrageous.
That is freaking nuts for a 800 mil wildlife lens.
That is
Now,
absolutely
it's not cheap.
outrageous.
It's not cheap, and it's obviously for the Micro Four Thirds system. And love it or hate it, that's fine. But if you went and had a look at it, the equivalent in a Canon or a Nikon, what are we talking? 300. Did I even do something like that?
Well, Canon make their 100 to 400 f4.5 to 5.6. That's probably the nearest one that's within reach of most people.
Yeah, and Sigma do one as well.
Yeah,
Sigma
for
do
sure.
a big
and
one.
That's around a $4,000 lens, the Canon one. However, I think as far as weight is concerned, I'm just trying to look it up. It's a lot heavier than that. It's I know it is. I've held it. It's way more.
Well, the Sigma one's 5.5 kilos.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Just to give you,
so it's
an
like
idea.
4 times the weight, like literally 4 times the weight. So
So if you went and had a look, what are we looking at here? They don't really even make one, do they?
No, nothing sort of around that focal length anyway.
Yeah. But anyway, big thanks to Aaron at OM Digital. I saw him in BFOP and I saw that lens. I'm like, when you're sending that to me as a joke, and he goes, when do you want it? I'm like, we can have it. So they've sent it down. I've got an OM day on the weekend. I've got a little Olympus day on the weekend. So those guys who are booked into that, probably none of them are interested in an $11,000 lens, but you can have a bit of a play.
I'm sure they want to put it through its paces.
Oh yeah, you can have a bit of a play with it, and we can scare the hell out of everyone in Richmond on the weekend with this massive big bazooka. But it's really cool. And quality-wise, I've had a look at some of the files already. I'm like, okay, this is. I know it's a stupid amount of money, but I'm contemplating. I'm like, how do I get one of those? What do I need to sell?
You could buy it and just rent it out and make its money back.
No,
that's a cool setup. I love it.
Yeah, very cool.
So there's a bit of gear talk for you, and the tip of the week. It's a short and sweet one. Cam, what is it?
Yes, the silica gel patches, or Kate, or do you want to call them little pockets for your case? Just talking about condensation and things getting moisture in cases and things like that. Those little things that they say don't eat. Those
silica gel, do not eat.
Do not eat. They're the easiest thing to put in your bag or your case just to help with moisture. So. Do you sell them in your shop?
Yes, I do.
Well, that was an unrehearsed plug, but
nice. You can buy them they're not expensive. You can just buy them in a little kit. They come with their own silica gel.
Yeah, right.
To absorb all the moisture.
Yeah, of course.
For the silica gel.
Really?
Yeah.
No, that don't.
No,
they don't. Shit.
No, and so you can get it. I think from memory, you buy a bag of them for like $20, and then they've got their own individual little pouches. You can chuck them in. I recommend you put. If you can, particularly if you know you're going to be traveling to humid places.
Yeah.
So if you're going to FNQ or northern WA, places like that, or the tropics, or Indo or places like that, then they're really quite useful for keeping your gear dry.
Yeah. So I didn't take any on the Franklin River, but I reckon it would have made a big difference to have them down on the Franklin River.
Yeah.
So that's a quick tip. Just if you can get your hands on them, put some, and if you buy enough shit online like I do, you get them in the products that you buy anyway. Like
absolutely, buy a pair of shoes.
I was going to say, you buy a pair of shoes, and there's 600 in there. If you buy anything from DigiDirect, they send a chuck a few in there. Right. So put them in your cases, put them in your bag, and save yourself a little bit of moisture.
Nice. All right,
easy tip.
Pro tip. Deer cam we don't have this week, so if you have a deer cam suggestion, please fire.
What about a Dear Tom?
Or a Dear Tom? He's on next week. Well, we keep saying he's on next week. We kind of hope he's on next week. He may stand us up again like he did this week, but who knows?
Actually, I think we stood him up. He's like, I can still get on and talk. I just have audio. I'm like, nah, mate, we're a visual show.
No, sorry. No, we're way more professional than that, mate.
And you know what? We've caused a bit of a rift too. So
Tom has his little podcast with Matt Crummins. You know Matt Crummins quite well as well.
I do know Matt. Well, I haven't seen him for a long time, but I do know Matt, yes.
Yeah, there's a bit of a breakdown in the relationship there. I think Matt has got a little bit offended that Tom's coming on this show.
Well, that's easy to fix. We just get Matt on the show the following week.
You reckon we have both of them on?
Would have been great to get Matt on this week ahead of Tom,
Yeah.
but that's another story.
Maybe we should get Matt on first. But I have promised Tom that our podcast recording next week won't go for 2.5, 3 hours that he's used to.
No.
We keep it short and sharp on this show. We get to the point. No bullshit.
Sometimes.
Are we going to do a burst mode for Tom? I can see.
Oh, most definitely. We will do a burst mode for Tom. That is definitely. I would say next week's show is going to sneak in just under the hour mark. It'll be lovely.
Oh, you don't know, Tom. He could talk under wet cement with a mouthful of peanuts.
Mouthful of peanuts. Well, so what have you got coming up this week, Cam? You said you got one last OM day to go.
I do. I got one more out at Richmond, and then I am off. I have a few months to chill out. I'm coming into Melbourne in January, so I've got about a month and a half off before I come into Melbourne. I'm doing 4 OM days there, which sold out within seconds, which is great. Yep. Catching up with your good self for a milestone event.
Yes,
and
that'll be good.
We should do a podcast that night.
And that would be awful. Let's not. No, we won't be doing that.
So yeah, pretty much just winding down now. Just getting a few things cleaned up in the office and getting a few things cleaned up around the house, and chill out. And you are just probably
you're going to need to go out and take photos, Cam.
I am. I'm off to Cradle Mountain tomorrow. Would you believe? All places
with that big lens.
With that big lens, I've actually. I think I might have told people here I bought the minibus for my business last year or this year, and there's a little bit of leftover business from the transfer company that I bought from my mate Chris, and so I got to actually take a couple of people from Lake St Clair tomorrow up to Cradle Mountain so they can start the overland track. So these are great opportunities to take the camera. I drop them off and take photos. I'll be up that way. So I will take the big camera out. I might try and get some wombats tomorrow. There's some really cool wombats up there.
You need to deck the back of the bus out as a little bed, and you can just camp in it. And
you know what? That's a good idea. Maybe I could do that as well.
I'm on fire tonight. Great questions, good ideas.
I go away for a week, and all of a sudden you become switched on and tuned in. And
pro host of the Down South Photo Show.
Yeah.
Very good. Look, it'll be more of the same for me this week. I have a lot going on. It just gets, as we get closer and closer to Christmas, it just gets more and more. So very, very busy getting canvas prints done. In fact, as when we finish recording this, I've got 2 canvases to stretch, so I'll be doing that tonight.
So you're not editing this and having it ready?
Why not? I will. I'm a man of many talents. I'll do that. And then away we go. So one thing that I don't do, and people ask me why I don't, but it's more that I can't be bothered, is
at least you're honest.
Black Friday sales.
Oh yes.
Well, go to hell. I'm not. You can
piss
jam
off with your sales.
Oh my people.
Beep. Look, are we going to beep something?
It's just stuff that they can't sell during the year. They literally stock up on purpose for these sales. Does that give it away for you people? Like, it's not. There's nothing special about it.
Everyone loves a sale, mate. You know that.
Yeah, and you go and they say Black Friday sale and all this sort of stuff, and you look and it's like a camera from 2017 that they couldn't sell then.
Yeah,
and look, sure, there's a couple of sale things here or there, but it's just. No, I don't get it. I just don't understand this thing. It does make same with Boxing Day. We had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. It does make
you're a bit of a Scrooge, aren't you?
No, I'm very festive. It's just the whole, let's go and spend all your money.
On that note, what are your Black Friday sales?
20% off all canvases on there. If you watch the show and you send me a canvas job on this Friday. This goes out Friday night. You're not going to get it in. No, if you send something in this weekend and say, I heard on the show that you're going to give me 20% off a canvas print, I'll do it.
How many? Is there a limit to how many?
No.
You're just making shit up as you go.
Sure.
You're already busy. You're already busy.
If people want a Black Friday sale, there's your Black Friday sale. Hey,
you're already busier than a one-armed painter.
Oh no, you're going to get your canvas in like the middle of next year.
Middle of next year.
Yeah,
You're already
let me
busy
just
as,
put a
but
little
let's chuck
asterisk on that.
let's chuck an ad hoc sale in just to make it even busier. So
Exactly. Yeah.
you're crazy.
So no, that I won't be doing. It's called Black Friday. What's Cyber Monday?
Well, that's different. Cyber Monday is all the technical stuff. Black Saturday. That's the fires. Black Friday, is anything goes.
Black
But
Friday used
Cyber
to be
Monday,
Friday the 13th.
Yeah, but
Now it happens to be the Friday after Thanksgiving in the US.
Yeah. And now Cyber Monday is all like the tech stuff. So
Okay.
so Friday you give 20% off your canvases,
Mhm.
and then Monday you give 20% off any camera purchase, memory card, things like
Mhm.
that. I'll
Okay.
run your marketing for you. Let me take over.
Yeah, I can't give 20% off cameras. I literally don't have those margins to play yet.
Oh, come on. There's always more than 20% in cameras.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. There might have been in 1983, but not
Yes.
now.
No, there's not much now. 7%,
There's about 4%.
5%. Yeah, it's not much.
It's pretty ordinary.
And people
Never mind.
still...
Anyway, that's enough of that crap.
Yeah.
Thanks, Cam. Good to see you back on Terra Firma. Hope you're feeling better.
Thank you. I just want to do a big shout out to the guides we had on the Franklin River. So we had Max, Leon, Amy, and Mitch from the Franklin River Rafting Company, and Elias and Franzi who run the company. If you're ever thinking of going down this river, it doesn't have to be with me. They're the guys you go with. Full stop. They are professional beyond professional.
Link in description.
All right, I'll add that on Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
Then.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
There we go.
No, all good.
Yeah,
Good to see you.
great.
Thank you.
That's a
Good.
chat.
Thanks to
No.
Ash again for taking over the show.
Don't
Although
mention his name again.
well, you did throw a couple of smart ass comments in there about me, Ash. I think
About
he needs,
replacing you and
yeah, I think he just needs to go back in his little Torquay. Is he from Torquay? Torquay box?
Torquay.
Yeah. When's he going around Australia? That can't happen quick enough.
He's off. He's coming your way.
Yeah, no. He said, and then he hangs shit on me, and he goes, "But hopefully, Cam will roll out the red carpet."
That's right. Exactly.
I can tell you now, I'm rolling out the shit rag for you.
You'll. I can see you two having a beer together. It'll be wonderful.
Well, he needs to get in touch, Ash, if you're listening, because of course you do. Because I'm in Melbourne from like the 10th to the 25th of January, so it needs to be outside those dates for a catch up. So true. Yeah, I'll
I'm sure
be
it'll happen.
up there.
Yes. And that's Cam and Ash making a little personal rendezvous live on the Down South Photo Show.
We'll check in.
We will. We're out. We will see you. Thanks, Cam.
All right, toodaloo.
We will see you for episode 62 next week. Bye for now.